Hello, John Phillips here, Mansfield University. In this video, we're going to continue with part 2 of setting up our Ubuntu LAMP server. So far we have a basic Ubuntu server running as a T2 micro instance on AWS, the Amazon cloud. And if yours is stopped, go ahead and click on it, go to Actions, Instance State Start, and get it going again. Each time you stop and restart it, it'll give you a new public IP address, unless you set up an elastic IP, which will cost you a little bit extra. Okay, well, let's go ahead and launch PuTTY and get back into this server. So I have saved it before, so I'll click on what I saved it as and load. And since I didn't shut this down yet, I still have the same IP address. Now you need to check that yours is still the same as what the control panel shows. Alright, so we're good to go. We can go ahead and open this server, and it comes up and says login as. And so for the Ubuntu instance that we created, you just log in as user Ubuntu. You need to have your private key set in PuTTY, like I showed in the last video. And here we are, it just logged you right in. So only the person with that private key file can actually log into this server. The other thing to check, if you had any problems at all logging in, is make sure you have your server security set to allow a login from your current IP address. Click on inbound, and then you could say what's my IP, or just go ahead and edit this and choose my IP and see if it changes, and then save that if it changed. And then without that set right, you won't be able to log into your server. Okay, so let me just go back to PuTTY. And what I want to talk about now is how you can create your typical LAMP server. So we have Linux already, but we don't have a web server. So a lot of times Apache 2 is used as the web server. We don't have MySQL installed. That's often used as a database server. We do have Perl installed. So we have Perl 5 version 22. We have Python 3 installed, I believe. And oops, maybe if I just say Python, let's see what that does if it runs it. And it says, oh no, it's not installed. So we can install Python 3. PHP is not installed, and Ruby's not installed, I believe. So we could install some of those kind of languages if we wanted to. To do the install, typically you say sudo apt-get install, and then whatever it is you want to install. So Apache 2, for example. And so if I do that, it says, okay, it's going to install all of these different files. And do you want to continue? Yes or no? I'm going to go ahead and say no at this point, because there's a fair amount of steps to go through, and I've created a script that can automate this for me. So if you want to go take a look at this script, head over to github.com/profphillips, PROFPHILLIPS. And there you should find in one of my repositories, and here it's as a pinned repository, AWS setup. So click on that, and you can read down through the README if you like. The file we want is this D1 setup dev server. So we'll click on that, and we want to click raw because we don't want the line numbers. We want to copy this script right here. So we'll click on raw, and then just go Control A if you're on Windows to select all, Control C to copy to the clipboard. And now we can go back to PuTTY, and to execute the script, it helps to be the root user. And so you can become the root user by doing sudo su dash. And now notice the prompt changes to a pound sign. And we can see type ls to list whatever files are in this folder. We don't see any files there. pwd, print working directory, says where you're at. Who am I? Tells you who you are. You're the root user. Okay, so what we want to do now is take the file we just copied and create a file here. So I'm going to use the VI text editor, which is a little bit tricky to use for beginners, but just kind of follow along with what I'm saying. So we'll call this install.sh, and hopefully that extension will work okay here. And then I will hit the letter I to get into the insert mode. So down at the bottom you see insert. And then I want to paste the file I copied. The way you paste is right-click your mouse if you're in PuTTY. And you see it pastes all that stuff that was in that script here. And then what you need to do is go read down through the script. You can go back up to the very top if you want to. And anything that you don't really want, you can put a pound sign right in front. We're in the insert mode, so you can type in right now. Anything that you don't want, you can comment out. So say if you don't want Java, you could comment out these lines right here, and then it won't install Java. You could also add on. Say there's some utility programs I didn't include here that you want to add. If you know the names of them, you can add them right there, and it will install them for you. So we're going to install Java. Perl's already installed, but we add support for MySQL. Python, we'll add Python 3. And actually, I thought that showed it wasn't installed. We might need to make a little change here to make sure we install Python 3. Okay, and then install Ruby. I think Python 3 used to be installed automatically, so I'm surprised I didn't see it before. Maybe I typed it wrong. And then we'll install some C and C++ support. And then I have several other languages here that are commented out. So for example, if you want to do Go, just uncomment these lines. Just use your delete key to uncomment them. Okay, you have Fortran, Clojure, COBOL, PL1, some old-time compilers. And then the next section installs Apache 2, MySQL, and PHP 7 to give us this LAMP server that we're looking for. All right, so you can read through that. Now, if you didn't have this script, much of what it's doing, you'd have to go in and edit these files manually. And so it's just saving you the trouble of having to go in and giving some of these commands. But it'd be worth your time to do it manually at least once so you can see exactly what's going on. Another thing I have commented out is the Tomcat Java web server. So if you would like to enable that, then uncomment these lines here, this one especially where you install Tomcat, and then you'll want to have it also set the password for Tomcat. Okay, and then finally it creates some test files that you can access to verify that some of these things are working, and then that's about it. We create a sample database and then some echo commands here reminding you to change some passwords and whatnot. All right, so to get out of this, escape, hit the escape key, and then colon WQ. Make sure lowercase, that stands for write and quit from the Vim text editor. So escape colon WQ, writes and quits any changes that you made. Escape gets you out of the insert mode, so you can give that command. Okay, now if we go ls, we see we have this install.shell script, but it's not executable yet. So now we need to give a command to make it executable. And so we can say chmod, let's see, maybe 755, and then install.sh. Let's see what that does. So probably 700 would have been fine also. So if I do ls space dash la, that then shows me the permissions on this install. We see it turn green, and we have little X's beside these different permissions. This is the owner's permission, this is the group, and then the last set is the everyone else. And you know, so maybe the better thing to set this to would have been 700, just so only the root user owned it. I don't know if anybody else is even able to run it though. So let's go ahead and run it. How do you run it? /install.sh, like that, and we'll hit enter, and that should then run this script. So the first thing it did is it updated the server. It downloaded the latest files on the server from the server's repositories, and then looked for any software that was out of date, and then it's now downloading and installing that software. And then it's going to move on to installing the other things that we mentioned. And it says it mentioned, I saw Python 3 go by there. It could be if we install the Python 3 database component, it's going to go ahead and install Python 3. If not, I'll need to go back and update the script to install that also. All right, so now it's installing Java 8 compiler. And so this is going to take a while to do all this, maybe 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and then we'll come back when it's finished. All right, it looks like it's finished. And you can scroll back through the history and see if there was any errors, and then read the reminders of passwords and things that you might need to change. Okay, and then to get out of this, root user, you could type exit, and now you're back to the regular Ubuntu user. And you can type a few commands just to see what's going on. So ps, process status, aux, that'll show you all the processes that are running. And you should see that you have your Apache web server started, several instances of that running. We should find MySQL running, and there's the MySQL daemon running in the background. So our MySQL server's working, our web, well, we don't know if it's working, but it's running anyway. Before we go and test this any further though, it's probably a good idea to reboot the server after you get everything installed. Reboot it, make sure it comes up correctly. So I'm going to go back to my control panel, and I'm going to click on this Ubuntu LAMP server, actions, instance state, and then reboot. Yes, reboot. Okay, and so your PuTTY connection gets disconnected, and so you see that message right there. And that's okay. We'll give it a few seconds. I'm going to pause for 30 seconds or so. Okay, so I waited, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds there. Let's see if we can get back into it. If you go up to the top left corner of PuTTY, you can say restart session, or you can just log in to begin with like we did when we started. But if you do restart session, you can just type Ubuntu down there, and it gets you right back in. So that's great. Another thing you could do is give the top command, and that'll show you how much memory you have, how much memory is available, and what the load is. And you'll notice that these numbers will get smaller and smaller after the server gets going here for a bit. These numbers will drop a lot. Okay, and so you can see what processes are running there. So to get out of this, hit the letter Q to quit. All right, so what do I want to do next? Let's see, I'm going to close that window back, just minimize it, the control panel window. And I want to test and see if this stuff is working. So first of all, that script we just ran created a Jane Doe user, JDoe. And so I'm going to start a duplicate session here in PuTTY. And it says log in. This time I'm going to type JDoe. And it says server refused our key because JDoe, we didn't have a key set for this person. But we do have a password, and that's one thing that script created for us, a JDoe user with the password of MUCIS. And now we've logged in. So this is much less secure than our Ubuntu account, which required a private key. But as long as we use our either Amazon firewall or a server firewall, we can carefully control who has access to this server. And so JDoe's logged in. If I type ls, I see there's a public HTML folder that was created. If I say, who am I? I'm JDoe. If I say pwd, print working directory, I see I'm in the home directory, and there's JDoe. As you add additional users, they will go into the home directory and each have their own private folder. All right, and let's go to the public HTML folder for JDoe, and we see there's a test folder, and we can cd into test, and we see there's several files here that were created by the script that we ran. And so what we want to do is see, are these different programs working? First of all, let me test Python 3. And yep, that's installed now. Control D to get out of this. Control D is in David. And we're back out to our command prompt. All right, now how do we test these other programs? Well, these are web-based programs. And so we need to launch a web browser. And then how do you know where to point your web browser to? Well, our server is, I need to go back to my control panel. Our server is running on this public IP address here. So I'm going to copy it. And then over my web browser, I'm going to paste this, Control V, and hit enter. And it should come up. Oh, it's not coming up because I forgot to do something. It's just kind of stalling there. Why is it stalling? Let's go ahead and stop it. The reason is I haven't set my control panel to allow any access from a web browser to a web server. So I need to go back to my control panel and edit. See, right now I only allow access on SSH and only from these sources. Let me edit this and add a rule, and I want to allow access from a web browser using HTTP. So I'll click on that, and HTTP is pretty safe, so you can allow access from any IP address, which is what the zeros represent. So I'll save this. All right, and as soon as you make that change, we'll refresh this, and let me paste it again and do another enter on it. Okay, there we go. So now we see, great, we have this Apache 2 Ubuntu default page. Well, how do we get to JDoe's programs? We'll do a slash, and let's see, which slash should it be? I always forget. A slash and a tilde, and then JDoe. That gets us to JDoe's public HTML folder. So tilde JDoe. And then we could click on the test folder, and then we could try these different programs out, see if they're working. So a simple web page, that worked. Perl, a programming language, that works. PHP test, that gives us a bunch of information about our server. You might want to go in and you know, after you look it over, eliminate that or because it's giving away a lot of information on your server, but look it over. And then Python, hello from Python, and then finally Ruby. So all of these different scripting languages, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby, seem to be working just fine, and as well as HTML. So that's great. Okay. What about Java? We installed Java, so if we do Java dash version, we see that we have OpenJDK 1.8, and then update 131. And then if we do Java C dash version, we have the latest version of Java C as of this install. So wonderful. So those are both installed. And finally, we want to test MySQL. To test that, let's do it for JDoe over here. So log in as JDoe, password MUCIS. And what I want to do is get into the MySQL query tool. So I'll do MySQL space -p for password. And the password is MUCIS, unless you changed it. And I'll say show databases. And there's a database for JDoe, so I'll say use JDoe. And I'll say now show tables. And because our setup script automatically created a new table for us, and we could say describe, let's see, RIV, describe address, it's the name of the table that it created, semicolon. And there's the fields, and to see what's in it, we could go select asterisk from address, and we see we got some sample data there. So our MySQL seems to be working great, and we can now create more tables, and we have our JDBC drivers installed so we could access it from Java, and I believe also from Perl, Python, and Ruby. We would need to test all that. There might be another driver or two to install. But so far everything's looking great. So to get out of this, we'll type quit semicolon, and I think that's what we wanted to test out, and looks like everything's working great. So what we've done is set up a Ubuntu 16.04 LAMP server with some additional programming languages, and now we can add other users. We could develop software right on here, or we could develop software elsewhere, and maybe then save on GitHub, and then put it on here using GitHub, using Git to coordinate our repositories, things like that. So there's a lot that we could do with this. So anyway, that's enough for this video. Thanks for watching.